Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 34th anniversary dinner of Center for Return. My name is Michael Reminick, and for the past 10 years, I have been honored to be the Master of Ceremonies at the Center for Return annual dinner. Every year, we work hard to bring you an amazing program, and I hope tonight will be just as inspiring as always. Please give us your undivided attention as we begin the program. All of the speakers will share with me the role of Master of Ceremonies by introducing the next speaker. Without further ado, I would like to present our first speaker. Author of many volumes of the internationally known Torah scholar, Rabbi Yosef B. Soloveitchik, his lectures, Rosh Yeshiva, Professor of Talmud at the Rabbi Isaac Elkanan Yeshiva University, Rabbi Herschel Reichman.
Thank you very much. My dear friends, as a Rosh Yeshiva, I have to say a little about Torah, but I assure you it will be less than 3 minutes. We read in last week's Parsha that Yaakov left Be'er-Sheva and he went to Haran. And there's a long story which spans 20 years, in which he returns with a big family to Israel. What is the main lesson of the Parsha? The Parsha begins with a vision of angels and ends with a vision of angels. There's only one major difference. The angels in the first vision appeared to Jacob in a dream. The angels in the second vision appeared to Jacob as he was traveling and wide awake on the road. And that's a major difference. When Jacob left, at the very beginning, he was a fugitive, hunted by his brother Esau for assassination. And the dream of angels was just a dream which he dreamt at night. At the end of 20 hard, long years, when he came back, he met the angels wide awake. That dream had become a reality. He was a man who had 11 children and wives. He was extremely wealthy, and he was very, very successful. The great blessing which came to him was a result of having that original dream. And that's the main lesson of the Parsha. Having the big dream and then struggling to achieve it, and with God's help, seeing the reality. 34 years ago, when I met Rabbi Avrohom Kahn, I knew for a long time, he said he was going to leave the world of the Beit HaMidrash, the study halls, and bring the lesson of Torah to the world and make the world a better place. That was his great dream and vision. And I was there, and I was privileged to be at the Shabbaton a couple of weeks ago in Highland Park, where we saw dozens of people receiving Torah inspiration from Rabbi Avrohom Kahn, Miriam Kahn, and the Center for Return family. The dream over 34 years has turned into a more amazing reality. Hashem God blesses those who try sincerely to realize their dreams. And our blessing to Rabbi Avrohom Kahn and to his wife Miriam is, may you have more wonderful dreams, and may you have more beautiful accomplishments. It gives me great pleasure now to introduce a remarkable brother and sister, Ben and Dalia Wolfson.
Good evening. My name is Ben Wolfson.
And my name is Dalia Wolfson.
Our parents, Sonia and Eugene, are born and bred natives of St. Petersburg, from back when it was still called Leningrad. The Soviet government mocked and oppressed any form of religion, and the closest representatives of Judaism, frail, older grandparents, had weird, backwards customs. Strapping on strange leather boxes, insisting on keeping pots separate, and muttering Yiddish under their breaths.
Our dad likes to tell us about how he celebrated Passover as a kid. He painted eggs with his neighbors, and for a week in the spring, thin, flat crackers would pop up in the house. They'd never heard of the holidays of Shavuot or Sukkot, but the one day they did celebrate was Simchat Torah. All the young Jews would come out to the main synagogue in Leningrad to dance and meet new friends. Our dad knew about the Bible, more specifically, the New Testament, because his mother was an art historian who wrote about visual themes in Russian art, which is laden with Christian imagery. Our parents didn't know about Rosh Hashanah, but they definitely celebrated the New Year with Christmas trees in their homes. Towards the 1980s, the Soviets loosened restrictions on Jewish outreach groups, and my father got involved with Bnei Akiva.
Although he was studying to be a mechanical engineer, our father has always had a passion for languages. Believe me, a lot of wordplay and puns. So he picked up Hebrew quickly and started teaching classes. Our mother was one of his students. They got married and left shortly afterwards for Israel. By the time we were born, my grandmother, great aunt, and uncle had joined our parents in Israel. My grandmother Ilya suddenly felt the freedom to return to her Yiddishkeit. And unlike the rest of the family, grandmother Ilya started keeping kosher and observing Shabbat. She also sent my uncle, back then a young boy, to learn in yeshiva. But it would be some time until the four of us also found our way back to these customs. Saturdays in Israel, my family enjoyed the nation's favorite pastime, taking a short drive to be at the beach in Tel Aviv.
In 1997, our dad received a very tempting job offer in the United States. So in 1998, we moved to Riverdale in the Bronx because our parents wanted a neighborhood with an active Jewish community. Our parents are some of the bravest, strongest people we know, and they managed to complete the second big move with the same ingenuity and care as before. For a second time, our parents learned a new language, adapted to a new culture and way of life. My mother left a successful career as an architect and decided to teach herself computers by reading stacks and stacks of programming books while simultaneously learning English.
Most importantly, our parents sacrificed their time, energy, and money so that they could send us to a private Jewish school in New York, Kinneret Day School. Having a strong Jewish identity was a very big source of pride and strength for our parents. Kinneret Day School was a tiny, pluralistic Jewish day school in an apartment complex that was home to many Israeli teachers who taught the Jewish part of the curriculum. Every Friday, we celebrated Shabbat at school. Dalia was always the Shabbat Ima, with a little white paper doily on her head, and I was the Shabbat Abba, with a plastic cup overflowing with sweet Kedem grape juice. But when at home, a typical Saturday was a trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, a yummy hot pretzel from a street vendor, and a leisurely stroll through Central Park. As we got older, though, we started noticing these inconsistencies. We'd learn about the laws of Shabbat without practicing them. Similarly, we'd shake our paper lulavim in school, but we never ate in the sukkah.
As we approached the age of our bat and bar mitzvahs, the conflict between the things we learned in class and the way we acted at home became more and more apparent. We would often come home with questions that our parents couldn't answer. My dad remembers how he looked around at the older children of his close friends and family and saw that most of them were dating non-Jews and were disconnected from their Jewish identity. He realized that an abstract Jewish pride could not survive more than a generation. For so many centuries, his ancestors had struggled and triumphed in keeping Judaism alive, and now his family was on the verge of becoming the last lost link in a long, long chain. My dad started attending different shiurim in Riverdale, trying to learn as much as possible and oftentimes taking us along for the ride.
Around this time, Center for Return came into our lives. In 2007, my father found out by email that Center for Return, a Jewish outreach program, was offering weekly Torah classes at Goldman Sachs. My father began attending the weekly Lunch and Learn Torah class, eager to fit Torah into his busy schedule. The way my father describes it, you'd walk into a conference room and you'd be greeted by a smiling CFR rabbi. Everyone would load their plates with delicious meat salad and homemade sauce. And suddenly, you'd be transported into a world of authentic Judaism. Abraham leaves his birthplace for the land of Israel. Talmudic arguments erupt between Abai and Rava, and responsa on relevant contemporary issues like genetic engineering are eagerly discussed. For most of the people attending the class, this was the first time they'd seen the Hebrew text or read Jewish commentary. My dad went eagerly every week. He especially enjoyed Rabbi Kahn's classes, and he'd always come home with a thought about the Parsha.
As a family, we slowly started taking on mitzvot, starting with Shabbat. Whereas before we'd only done the Zachor part, perhaps lighting candles, we now moved to more and more of the Shamor, keeping Shabbat, by saying Kiddush and keeping the TV off. By 9th grade, we'd kashered our kitchen entirely. But around this time, Ben and I also started attending Hunter College High School, a specialized public school in the city. Going to a public school posed extra challenges, logistically and spiritually. As we made this transition, CFR was there to support us. CFR arranged for us to study with Rabbi Simcha Jacob, a CFR rabbi. Throughout our high school years, Rabbi Jacob and other rabbis recruited by Center for Return taught us how to decode a Talmudic text and read a halachic response. We honed our Hebrew skills, studied Aramaic grammar, became familiar with essential Talmud phrases, and developed a rudimentary understanding of how Jewish law developed over time.
In our senior year of high school, Dalia and I decided to spend a year studying Torah in Israel. I attended Yeshivat Shalavim, and Dalia went to Nishmat, a seminary for women. Throughout our journey, CFR played an essential role in our lives, accompanying us on our path to Torah observance. Center for Return taught us not only how to practice Judaism, but also how to live a total and complete Jewish life.
One of the most difficult parts about becoming observant is that for a long time, you feel that none of what you're doing is natural. When do I stop feeling like I'm play acting and feel that being a Torah observant Jew is the essential me? The Kahns truly eased our transition to observance. We attended countless events, such as matzah baking, sukkah parties, and Shabbatons. My dad consults Rabbi Kahn on halachic inquiries, and my mom has regular outings with Rebbe and Miriam. We can always count on Rebbe and Miriam's detailed email updates, and we all have Rabbi Kahn's phone number in case any Jewish question comes up. When I asked my dad what was so special about CFR, he said, it's an organization that's full of individuals with whom you could mityaches, with whom you can relate. Judaism with a human face. CFR brings Torah to your place of work and your home and shows you how to make this seemingly baffling, beautiful, but totally new way of life possible. There's one moment especially that I'd like to share with you, and we'll end with this. With CFR, we went to our first ever matzah baking in the Pupa Tzelem Bakery, deep in Williamsburg. L'shem matzahs mitzvah, we would cry out every 3 minutes or so, covered head to toe in flour. That Passover, for the first time ever, we had shmura matzah.
Today, the weird flat crackers that would appear in my father's home when he was growing up, and the mysteriously separated pots are an essential part of our family life. Because of Center for Return, a part of our Jewish heritage, something very old and very precious, something that belonged to our family and was lost, is once again a vibrant part of our lives. CFR has supported us on our journey to bring our Jewish life home. And for this, our family is forever grateful.
Thank you.
It is our pleasure to introduce the Honorable Mr. Saul London.
Thank you. Rishus Rabbi Kahn and the Honorable Rabbanim and all the honorable guests. I'd like to tell a little of my story. I worked at Bell Labs in my first job after college, and I met an Orthodox woman who asked me if I had ever studied Gemara. I said, "What is Gemara?" "The Talmud," she said. "Oh, I know about the Talmud," I said. "Do people still study that?" After she assured me that they do, she convinced me to meet her father, Rabbi Schoenfeld, a prominent New York rabbi. Rabbi Schoenfeld told me that the person I must meet to introduce me to the world of Torah is Rabbi Avrohom Kahn. Rabbi Kahn was already known at that time for his scholarship and for his success in introducing Torah to the unaffiliated on college campuses through the Center for Return. Rabbi and Rebbetzin Kahn welcomed me into their home. Rabbi Kahn included me in center programs and spent time learning with me one-on-one. Rabbi Kahn was with me at my wedding. To my wife, Georgie, yes, that woman who asked me if I study Gemara, and yes, I do. Georgie and I, Georgie's here with me tonight, have 4 married daughters and a son, and 12 adorable grandchildren. Georgie says I must say Kanai Nahara at this point. 2 of our daughters have made Aliyah to Israel. We're very proud of them. We have a son-in-law who is a Rebbe in high school in Philadelphia, and sons-in-law learning in Lakewood and Kiryat Sefer, and a daughter who teaches at Anshe Chabad in Fair Lawn. And our son is learning in yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. In recent years, I have worked with Rabbi Kahn coordinating Center for Return classes at Google, where I work as a software engineer. For some, those weekly classes are their only connection to Judaism. For others, they were the beginning of a journey into a Torah life. I have a weekly chavrusa in Gemara Baba Basra, currently via video conference, with a friend at Google who wasn't sure whether Judaism had a place in his life when he started the CFR classes a few years ago. He is now Shomer Shabbat and living in Israel. I'm indebted to Rabbi Kahn and CFR for the guidance and Torah they have given me throughout my journey. This year, I worked with the center and my rabbi, Rabbi Kaufman, Rabbi Kahn's brother-in-law, whose Rebbetzin is here tonight, and mother-in-law, on an amazingly successful Shabbat project with Rabbi Reichman as well, where we live in Highland Park, New Jersey. What makes the Center for Return so successful? Certainly the warmth and love that Rabbi and Rebbetzin Kahn and the whole CFR staff show to every Jew is an essential ingredient. But I think that the critical element is the Center's clear and simple message. The Torah is true and it is our inheritance. No rationalizations, no apologetics. This, I think, is the message of the final words of the Navi Hosea in yesterday's Haftorah. Ki yesharim darchei Hashem, the path of Hashem is straight. Utzadikim yelchu b'am, the righteous will follow it. Uposhiim yichashlu b'am, and the wayward will stumble in it. We could ask, if the path of Hashem is straight, Why should anyone stumble in it? If the pasuk said the path of Hashem is intricate and complex, we could understand that the righteous could follow it, but the wayward would stumble in it. However, the Navi tells us that to those who have the proper outlook, the path is straight. The righteous have faith that Hashem directs the world, and the Torah is just and true. This is the message personified by Rabbi Kahn and taught by the Center for Return that has brought so many closer to the Torah. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Neil Yaris.
I don't know how to follow these up. They're just wonderful, all these wonderful people. So thank you. Thank you for being here, honored guests, co-honorees, speakers, everyone for being here this evening. Congratulations to Ilya Weisbord as well. And thank you just for sharing this very, very important evening with us. And as I stand before you as an honoree, I'm really humbled by your appreciation. For the past 10 years, it's been my pleasure to know the Center for Return and the Kahn family. And I have to go away from my notes a little bit. This coming December will be 10 years since my father passed, and I met Rabbi Kahn and Rabbi Schutz at a minyan near my place of work at the time was Credit Suisse at a local minyan. And I determined that I was going to spend all 11 months saying Kaddish for him, and I think Rabbi Kahn saw somebody there that was interested but perhaps not as educated as he'd like to be. But during the process of mourning, which of course is a very difficult thing, I'm sure all of you, unfortunately we've all lost very important people in our lives from time to time. People offer their condolences and help you with things, and certainly we talked about my father, about certain things about his history and his life that made certainly reliving them very comforting. But Rabbi Kahn and Rabbi Schutz did something differently. They educated me. So with the education over the next several months, next many months and years of the Torah, I was able to understand better how to think about my father's life, how to think about his death, how to think about my own life, and therefore, in this context, made much easier to understand his passing, and it was really a way of comforting that no one else could have offered. So it's through the studying of the Torah that I was able to move on, and even today, as I did this past Shabbos, said Kaddish for him, I feel his presence. And certainly when I say Kaddish, I feel his presence even stronger than I always feel his presence, but certainly on a daily basis, but when I say Kaddish, even more so. And that's what the center did for me. But now I'm going to go back to my notes. So for the past 10 years, as I just mentioned, it's been my pleasure to know the Center for Return, and it has been my honor to help the organization in any way that I could. But even as I have given to CFR, I've been the big winner. So honoring me seems almost backwards. It's I who should be honoring the Center for Return. For nearly 10 years, I've learned with Rabbi Kahn. We've studied each parsha from the Torah, the entire Haggadah, the customs of each holiday, and so much more. Before I began working with him, I knew very little of this. I grew up in a conservative household. I attended religious school, and I was bar mitzvahed. I was active United Synagogue Youth, and I was very proud of being a Jew. And I thought I was doing pretty well in this area. But could I explain to my children what it truly meant to be Jewish? Could I articulate to them what any of the passages from the Torah meant? Could I truly impart to them the importance and pride they should feel because they are Jewish? And could I make them feel proud enough to ensure that they would marry within our faith? To all of these questions, I now know the answer. No, at that time I could not. Before I met Rabbi Kahn, I myself was not knowledgeable enough about Judaism to pass on our tradition to my children in a meaningful way. You see, even though I had been exposed to Judaism, as I previously mentioned, My formal Jewish education was at a young age, and by the time I was 13, I was finished. And this is a pattern followed by the vast majority of conservative Jews. But at such a young age, I could not begin to appreciate what Judaism was and why it was so important. So thanks to CFR, today I feel differently. The Center for Return brings Judaism to life in a dynamic, thought-provoking, and personal way. Each participant is treated individually. After all, although we are the same in many ways, we are also very different as well. Involvement in CFR has also become a family endeavor. Together, we have built a sukkah, cooked matzah for Passover, and studied together side by side at yeshiva lights. This type of active participation will be remembered by my children for years to come. If you asked me 10 years ago, Neil, what makes you a Jew? I would have said, my mother is Jewish, her mother was Jewish, and so on down the line. Therefore, I'm a Jew. And that answer would have been 100% correct. But it also reflects a complete naivety about our religion. When Rabbi Kahn and I worked through the Haggadah, he explained to me, Neil, you are a Jew because God chose you. On the 15th of Nisan, 3,300 years ago, when he chose me, Neil, he chose you too. When Judaism is put into this context, it takes on a completely different meaning. After all, who could possibly give away a special gift they knew was given to them directly and personally from God? I'm certain all of you are far more knowledgeable in Judaism than I am. I still consider myself a beginner in this area. But thanks to the Center for Return, I have developed a true Jewish identity. I now know better what it means to be a Jew. I have learned how wonderful being Jewish can be, but also that with the privilege of being Jewish comes more responsibility as well. I must act in a way that reflects favorably on our people, on each of you. After all, my actions, both positive and negative, are a reflection upon every other Jew. I am proud of who I am today. I've grown over the past 10 years tremendously with the help from the Center. I now believe I'm living a far more Jewish life, and I'm setting a better example for my children to follow. In a world where people define themselves by the color of their skin, the country in which they live, the college they attend or attended, the social organization in which they are a member, or even by the sports team they root for, I am proud to define myself first and foremost as a Jew. The Center for Return is making a difference. It's an organization that has done tremendous work in the area of outreach, and with the help of friends like you, will continue to have a profound impact on Jewish lives for years to come. Thank you for supporting CFR and giving people like me the chance to develop their own Jewish identity.
Wow. The world today is shaking. Not a day goes by where we don't hear about a terrorist attack in Eretz Yisrael. Not a week goes by where we don't hear the same in a different part of the world. Not a news report is heard without the threat of terrorism. The Center for Return is the antidote to a shaking world. The Center for Return's accomplishments are due to the tremendous Mesiras Nefesh of one outstanding couple, Rabbi Avrohom Kahn and his wonderful wife, Miriam. These are the people who, together with their outstandingly dedicated staff, are reaching out to our fellow Jews, day in and day out, year in and year out. These are the people who take young Jewish students and professionals and lead them by the hand spending hundreds of hours with each of them until they can stand on their own and take their rightful place in the Jewish community. We owe Rabbi and Rebbitzin Kahn and the entire staff at the Center for Return an enormous debt of gratitude. At this time, it is a great honor for me to introduce to you an incredibly talented Talmid Chacham of the highest order who has dedicated his entire life to saving our fellow Jews, Rabbi Avrohom Kahn.
This year's honorees are very special. They are warm, giving, with hearts of gold. We owe them our sincere thanks. Ilya Weisbord, Member of the Year awardee, sincerely interested in learning about Torah Judaism and involving his entire family in the Torah community. Ilya, may you and your family grow ever closer to our holy Torah. Neil Yaris, Hakaras Hatov awardee. I had the good fortune of meeting Neil 10 years ago, and together we have learned and continue to learn. He is a close friend with a beautiful family. His great generosity has enabled hundreds of unaffiliated Jews to explore Judaism through participation in Center for Return programming. I am in awe of his modesty and caring. Neil, you truly are deserving of all of our Hakaras Hatov. I would ask the honorees to please come up to the podium to accept their awards.
Let's get it together.
Please save the applause till after we finish giving out the awards. Now I'm going to read the engraved inscriptions. Ilya Weisbord, Member of the Year, Center for Return Annual Dinner, November 22nd, 2015.
Thank you. Wait 1 second. You'll stay here. You'll stay here.
Even when they say don't clap, people still clap.
Neil Yaris, Hakaras Hatov awardee, Center for Return Annual Dinner, November 22nd, 2015.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It is quite providential that the Center for Return dinner has almost always taken place within several days of the festival of Hanukkah. Alexander the Great conquered most of the known world. After he died in 323 BCE, the Hellenistic world settled into 4 stable power blocks, one of which was the Seleucid Empire, which had control of the land of Israel. Many Jews assimilated into the Hellenistic culture, adapted the language, the customs, and the dress of the Greeks, in much the same way Jews in America have blended into secular American society. In 175 BCE, Antiochus IV ascended to the throne of the Seleucid Empire. Antiochus wanted Greek culture to be forced upon the Jews in Israel. No Torah learning, no circumcision, and requiring the sacrifice of pigs on the altar in the Holy Temple. A group led by Matisyahu the Hashmonai and his son Judah Maccabee led a revolt against both the assimilation of the Hellenistic Jews and the oppression by the Seleucid Greek government. The revolution succeeded, and the temple was rededicated. This is the historical background to the story of Hanukkah. But let me tell you something you may not know. The victorious Hashmonaim entered the Holy Temple, and instead of jubilation at their victory, their military victory, a great melancholy descended over them. Not only because of the defilement and destruction they saw, but because they realized that even after their military victory, most of the nation had assimilated into the Hellenistic culture. What had they accomplished after all their years of fighting? At that point, in the depths of their melancholy, God gave them a sign. There was no ritual pure oil that had not been defiled by the Greeks. Oil was needed for the menorah in the temple, which was supposed to burn throughout the night, every night. They searched everywhere, but found only one small flask with pure oil enough to burn for one night. Yet miraculously, it burned for 8 nights, the exact time needed to prepare a fresh supply of oil for the menorah. The Hashmonaim understood this as a divine message of hope for the future, which brought them out of their melancholy. A little bit of pure oil burned miraculously for 8 days. Yes, the masses of Jews were assimilated, but with a little bit of pure Torah, you can rejuvenate an entire nation. That is what Center for Return does, and that is what we are celebrating this evening. Thank you all, and enjoy your dinner.
Everyone enjoy your dinner. We'll have raffle sellers perusing the room, so please, when you see them, call them over and buy a raffle or two.